Good morning and welcome to Cycling Form and Fitness Coach Talk number 10. This one's going to be a little bit more spontaneous, just kind of what I'm thinking about this morning. It's a beautiful day in Wisconsin, waiting for the weather to warm up a bit. We had near record low temperatures last night, but sun's out and we're supposed to get to 65, so looking forward to that. So while I'm sitting here this morning, I thought I would just hit a subject that is near and dear to my heart and most all the athletes I coach, and that's race preparation. I have a picture of a gravel race I did exactly 1 month ago, and it's interesting because this starts the conversation. You know, what does gravel racing have to do with triathlon? Because triathlon is the main thing for me and most of the people that I'm coaching right now. And I guess you could say very little. Um, when you look at the data behind this race, I'm going to show you a WKO. This is WKO5. It breaks down that race into some data and some visual graphs that can be very telling in what the race was like and what energy systems it impacted the most. So this first screenshot here is the impact for my anaerobic system and the aerobic system by doing this, well, I'd say a 3 hour and 33-minute race. So anaerobically 10, and yeah, that's 1 out of 10, 10 being the highest, and aerobically 10. So this race compared to my fitness and everything I had done leading up to it was extremely taxing. One could say it was all I had was to get to the finish line and making good power, and I was done. Some interesting things here. These red dots in this graph are the anaerobic contribution, and the blue dots are the aerobic. This graph is interesting because it's talking about the DFRC. So think about it as the anaerobic battery, if you will. So when you go over FTP, you're tapping into your anaerobic reserves. And this race started very hard. My anaerobic reserves went down to 0 pretty early on here. And then it recuperated some in the hills to follow. And then you can see my breaking point was about 45 minutes. I was with the first group and I was riding over the limit. It wasn't sustainable. So then I had this 15-minute period of, I'll call it under FTP riding. I had to regroup. I had to let some people pass me, get into group 2, maybe even group 3, and then kind of rejoin the race when I was ready to go again. And then I went pretty steady all the way to the finish. So interesting race for sure. And that kind of gets back to my point. So now if we're thinking about shifting gears to the main thing, that's triathlon. So, I mean, you can tell by the bike position, you can think about the steady nature of the power output required to be good at triathlons. It's not the same thing. So I had a departure. I decided I wanted to do a gravel race because we do have to do this for fun. I trained minimally for that gravel race, and I had a good overall result. I think I was third of maybe 15 people in my age group. Yeah, it felt respectable. But it wasn't an A race. It was a B race. It was a fun race. So it is what it is. So moving on to triathlon. Well, I wanted to explain there, if this will move forward for me, I'm going to close some of these photos. Everything gets bogged down when I'm trying to run too much at once. But what I wanted to share with you is some of the training that has happened since that gravel race. Looking for a decent file here. Here's one, just a week later. Pretty much pick any one of these because they're all very similar for me. This one was another one. I thought this was going to be one of my typical time trial training, call it triathlon training rides. But no, this was a group ride. I decided to do a 2 hour and 46-minute group ride. I did that with a group that was pretty fast. It was supposed to be a relatively controlled ride. But again, anaerobically, it stressed my anaerobic system to a 10 on a 1 out of 10 scale. But aerobically, it was a little bit better than nothing. I got a 7 for that day. And again, you can see my battery did not get drained to the point of being empty all but one time. So my efforts over FTP were not hard enough or not sustained long enough to get me into trouble from my anaerobic battery standpoint. But still, there was enough of those hard surges, climbs, efforts to get a 10 on the anaerobic scale. Okay, so that kind of brings me to the next training, which is actually triathlon training. And I could click on many files here because that's what I've been doing primarily for the last month. Got back to triathlon training. I was doing that before those gravel races and group rides that I just brought up. And here you can see that my aerobic score was 8 and my anaerobic score is 2. You can see there's far less of the red anaerobic dots. It's a pretty smooth power course, and a lot of the blue, which is the aerobic score. And when you look at the battery and the time spent over FTP, virtually none, right? And by the way, these rides I typically, well, this one was a normalized power of 204. That's going to be about 80% of my FTP, maybe 78% of my FTP. And usually my speeds for these rides have been 21 to 22 miles per hour. I tend to pick fast courses with not too many challenges as far as turns and stops. We can go on to another one too. Let's pick something that was more recent. How about looking for something suitable here? Did a ride a few weeks ago. I just wanted to grab that one. Bear with me here. That's a run, so that's not ideal. The ride I did yesterday is a good one to show you kind of what I look for as far as race specificity, and you know, training the way we're going to race is the goal. So this was a ride I did yesterday. It's really half distance. It's not meant to be taxing. I'm in my taper. I got a anaerobic score of 1, virtually no dots over FTP, and aerobic score 5. And again, you can see real similar. Let's do one more. Here's another one done a couple weeks ago. Anaerobic score of 2, aerobic score of 8, 2 hour and 20-minute, 50-mile ride. Somewhere close to 21 to 22 miles per hour again, and that's including some of the stops. At least I don't stop my computer very often. No working on the anaerobic side, purely aerobic training. So what my point is, if you're going to race well in 70.3, it's going to be typically an aerobic event. And you need to be on the TT bike, riding the way you want to race, using the power that is best for doing an event like that. And there's just no way of doing that when you got a lot of group rides, you're doing a lot of anaerobic type work. It's just not going to get you to where you need to be. If you want to perform at your best in a 70.3 type race, but this really even bleeds over to Olympic distance, and it definitely bleeds over to Ironman. We need to be race specific as we get closer to our races. And for me, Des Moines is 2 weeks away. So I need to be as race specific as I can. I was that way before the gravel. I was that way after the group rides. I kind of learned my lessons that I can do that, but I have to do it minimally, and then I have to get back to the main thing. So this was a 51-mile ride in 2 hours and 19 minutes. Had an IF intensity factor of 79%. I plan on racing at about 81%, give or take, when I do my Des Moines 70.3. Normalized power 204, I plan on doing 215 for Des Moines, so really close there too. And average speed of 21.9. So that's being aerodynamically optimized. It's being trained and it's practicing in that position and all the techniques that go along with being a good time trialist. So that's what I talked about in Coach Talk number 9. Using that plus or minus, say, 20% from target to climb the steeper hills, trying not to ever go over FTP unless you have to, and going fast when you can, primarily when it's safe. Don't let your power drop too low when you're going down hills. It's a time to really build some speed, carry your speed into the hills, take your turns smooth and fast when you can, keep your speed up. I practice that twice a week on the average, and I get better at it. And by the time I get to race day, it's all second nature. So hopefully this makes sense to you. I just wanted to at least drive that point home one more time because a lot of you guys are getting into your race specific period, and it's time to train the best you can. So hopefully that makes good sense. Thanks for listening in, and hopefully we'll be back together having another coach talk in a week or two. Thanks.